Hey, it's Kevin from Fat Daddy's Hot Rods. In this video, I'm going to be replacing the quarter panel skin in this 74 Nova. Now, I've already removed the fuel tank, leveled and braced the car. The next step is I'm going to cut the excess metal off of the new quarter panel skin and use it as a pattern to figure out where I'm going to start cutting the old quarter panel skin. So let's get started. All right, I've got the quarter skin laid off, ready to cut off any of the excess metal that I don't need. For some reason, this quarter skin actually came with a body line that's not on the quarter panel we're replacing. But fortunately, it's higher than what I need. I'm cutting below that line anyway. So we're just gonna cut it off, get it out of the way. It's just another thing you have to deal with sometimes when you use aftermarket parts. Okay, now that I've got the quarter skin cut and clamped against the car, I'm ready to mark where I want to cut. Now, when I go to cut, I'm going to want to cut 2 inches in from my mark. That gives me some wiggle room because it is going to shift once I start cutting out metal from below it and put it back up. It'll land in a different spot. You have to kind of massage it in. You'll also notice that here in the front, I've cut back away from the lip. That way I can retain the factory edge inside of the door. Now, let's get to cutting this out and see what's behind this. Alright, I just wanted to show you guys what was down inside this quarter panel. You can see this is the kind of stuff that causes quarter panels to rust out. Okay, now that I've got the quarter panel cut out of the way, I see about 2 inches away from my mark. We can see that the outer wheel well has to be replaced. It's pretty common here in Virginia. It wasn't anything we weren't expecting. So next, I'm going to go ahead and clean all this up. We're going to see what else needs to be fixed and go from there. Okay, now that I've cleaned up back here and replaced this area of the inner wheel well that was rotten, I'm ready to take this outer wheel well and start fitting it to the car. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to take my outer wheel well, slide it up over top like this. I will then put screws in here to hold it where I need it, and I'm going to use the quarter panel skin and make sure that I can get everything fit and that this is actually where I need it to be. Now that I've used the quarter panel skin to check the placement of the outer wheel well, I took the quarter panel skin back off, marked around the outer wheel well where I want to cut, and then cut it out. I then wire brushed along the edge to get rid of any kind of undercoating or contaminant that might mess up my weld. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the outer wheel well, line it up, and I'm going to butt weld these together. I don't like overlapping any kind of weld. Okay, I've got the outer wheel well welded up solid. The reason I cut the wheel well and weld it instead of replacing the entire outer wheel well is because there's braces up here that it's spot welded to, and spot welds up in here that's really a bear to get to. All this metal up above it is still good, it's not rotten, it's perfectly fine to weld to it. The next step is I'm going to take the quarter skin and fit it and get it adjusted and ready to cut to weld. Well, I've got everything cut out for the quarter panel skin. The next thing I'm going to do is clean up around the edges for welding. And before we weld the quarter panel skin in, I'm going to clean all this up, paint it, and seal everything that needs to be sealed before the quarter panel skin gets welded on. Now I've got all this painted and sealed, we're ready to put the quarter panel skin on. Now you can see I've went around and taken all the paint off around the edge that I'm going to be welding here, and taken all the coating off of the new quarter panel skin right here. I'm going to use a clamp like this to clamp the quarter panel skin to the car. You can get these from Harbor Freight, they're fairly cheap, and they work really well. Now that I've got the quarter skin clamped on, I'm going to come along each one of these clamps and put a spot weld right beside them. After that, I'm going to remove my clamps and start welding it in. Now that I've got the quarter panel skin tacked on here, about every inch to inch and a half, I'm going to come along now and weld all these gaps shut. I'm not going to weld from spot weld to spot weld. I'm going to just give a couple spot welds here, come up, give a couple more spot welds, come up about another 6 inches, give some spot welds, and work my way around until I have the entire quarter panel welded on. The key is make sure, take your time, don't let your panel get really hot, and try to keep from warping. Alright, we've got everything welded up and ready to go. The next step is we're going to grind it down, smooth it out. Alright, I've got it ground down, smoothed out, and ready for body work, which at this point should be pretty minimal. In this business, I've learned that everybody does things a little bit differently. This is how I have figured out that works best for me. Hopefully it helps you out with your project. And now, a word from Fat Daddy himself.
Thanks for watching. Check us out on Facebook, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below, and we'll see you next time.